Hi, everybody. It's James, and I have another CEO Jimbo show for you. This is for my CEO Jimbo playlist. Yet again, this is on Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, Boeing 777 that disappeared roughly about 10 years ago in the Middle East, I guess it is, or East. Took off from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, heading to Beijing, China, and vanished, and so on. There's been some parts that have supposedly been found, and um, some kind of information regarding um, satellite imagery, Inmarsat, um, uh, trails. From signals. Anyway, it's late. I made one of these. If you're familiar with my show here, they're kind of all in the same format. Really, some of them are sort of more organized than others. I just made this just a few minutes ago. I was trying to compose my thoughts. I've been writing my book. On a laptop computer at my local library during the day, and um, my book's in 4 sections. Um, this is section 4: communication, timing, and other. This is what the subject of this video is. For like 2 weeks, I'll kind of work on a section. This last 2 weeks was section 4, and um, after I'm making this video, then I'll start working on section 1. Spend the next 2 weeks on section 1 and come up with a video on section 1, and so forth. It has 4 chapters: people, places, things, and right now, act of God and other. Um, and this is the final section of the book. It's 16 chapters total. So it kind of all sums up at the end. Anyway, so I'm kind of winging it here. Wish I was less extemporaneous. I guess I got rid of some of the extemporaneous by writing this down here, but I'm just composing my thoughts here. Over the last several days, I've kind of like been thinking in terms of making this, and then just a few minutes ago I made it. So in the center of this whole thing is Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. The actual aircraft's tail number was 9MMRO. And I can't remember which one I started with. I think I did this one first. This one, where it is looking like it is. I've been, if you know me, I do music, and I like the Dire Straits, and I like this is sort of like almost in the spirit of the Roller Girl. Where it is, it was, and it will be what it is, or something like that. I'm trying to learn that song. So kind of like almost wordy on purpose. But so where is the plane? That's kind of one of the things I'm kind of like working on, trying to find out where in the world it is. Like where's the fuselage? Where are the wings and the tail? Parts have been found, like flight controls, so some pieces of like engine and stuff like that, but not really the major whole of the aircraft. I'll just go around kind of clockwise here. The lesson or lessons that can be learned from this. What are they? I think from all the work that I've done so far, I've already sort of like picked out some lessons from this. What not to do, like if you're flying an aircraft and so on. Um, I don't know what that would be right offhand. Tired. Um, it just uh, maybe uh, you know uh, plan your thing out a little bit better. Uh, they didn't have like GPS signals. Like if I did not take my cell phone, I wouldn't be tracked at all. I mean, there's a possibility that, you know, if I had my cell phone with me, um, I don't know how much it would work, but there's a possibility that if I got lost in the, you know, the jungle or something like that, just because I had my cell phone with me, you know, the authorities might be able to find me. Even if I didn't even do anything. And if I had it with me, I could maybe like dicker with it to kind of like actually like convince me that it's actually like leading them to me, even like call 911 or something like that. Um, what it's looking like, what happened to it. So in my book, I'm kind of like, you know, there's times where I'm really working on this, like what happened to this thing? I mean, who cares where it is? What happened to it? And so I'm kind of like studying the flight crew and so forth, and I kind of have some to say about that. You'll find when I get to my thing here, and so on. You know, what about the passengers? I'm looking into like where they were all going, what they were doing, and there's kind of interesting characters that were on the flight and so forth. The relief that comes from the investigation. I mean, already, I mean, you know, just I know a lot more about this flight than I did before I started it, and I mean, I get a little relief from it, where it's like, you know, it it probably wouldn't happen again because I think they're kind of like starting to kind of track the planes a little bit better nowadays, and so on. Uh, what it's looking like wherever it is, what it's looking like. Oh, you know, I'm getting a mental picture. If you've been following this, like on my witness section and my parts section, I'm really getting kind of a picture that the aircraft may have like um, tried to like land on the water, um, and then it maybe like flipped over. Um, and in the process of that, it may have like broken like right in this area, like either like right here or like right here, and so on. The nose would have gone one way and the aircraft the other way. The reason being in the parts, and this isn't even really on the parts, but some parts came out of the aircraft, and I don't think they would have got out if the, you know, if the nose didn't break off. There's like parts that may be like associated right with that area, that have come out and so forth. Um, so not to get off topic too much there. What it's looking like wherever it is, what it's looking like. So that these are kind of almost the same thing. It's probably looking like it's. I mean, if that's what happened to it, if it landed on the water, it flipped over, you know, and then this sunk here, you know, in one spot, maybe, you know, maybe it's landing, and in the flipping over part, you know, the nose ends up here, and then due to current drift, you know, all of a sudden there's distance where it's like the nose is here under the water and the rest of the plane is there, kind of thing. But I'm getting kind of what it's looking like. It's looking like maybe it's like in two main pieces, sort of a nose cone piece and the rest of the airplane piece. Um, who the villain is, or who the villains are. And I'm trying to be fair here. There's kind of like almost like two different sources. There's maybe like a internal villain possibility and an external villain possibility. The internal being like the captain is the one that's sort of like most sort of suspected. But that there was like two people that were on board the flight with stolen passports. So it's possible that there were maybe these two guys hijacked the plane, and they're the villains that caused all this, and so forth. Externally, I mean, there's talk that maybe somehow this plane had such sophisticated avionics that somebody outside actually managed to control it like remotely and made it disappear off into the ocean and crash or whatever. So the villain would be sort of remote control guy with his RC controller or something like that that made it crash into the water or something like that. Where those pesky black boxes are. Okay, so I mean, they would probably be, I mean, if it did what I was saying here, if it landed on the water, flipped over, crashed, nose goes this way, tail, and the aircraft goes this way, those black boxes, from my understanding, are kind of way in the tail area here, and all that would have sunk deep into the water, and they would still be there. Somewhere in my research, there's kind of like some sort of suggestion that one of the black boxes possibly was not working before takeoff or something like that. And I'll have to kind of get back to that, or it didn't even have it on board or something like that. But, that's sort of a whole thing in itself, is where these black boxes are, who the good guys are. Like all of the guys, I hate to get back to parts because that's like section 2, and this isn't on section 2, but it's like, there's all these guys that have been involved in finding the parts, especially like Blaine Gibson and so on. Is he a good guy that's kind of really helping us find the plane, or is he sort of a bad guy that's sort of like, just wasting everybody's time? And if we weren't sort of like so mesmerized by him, we'd just find the plane or something like that. I'm trying to sort all that up and sort of come up with some suggestions or decisions or something like that. Where this is back where we started again. Where is it? And that that's kind of has to do with like my section 3 navigation, I think, a little bit. They're talking about the radar track that they think that it had, and the Inmarsat satellite track that it seemed to have, and this other track called Whisper. Also in the witness section 1, the witnesses kind of said that they saw it around town kind of thing, doing different things and so forth. So that's kind of a different topic. This topic is on communication and navigation as sort of the real theme to it. And then so what I was saying, the chapters are this kind of went blank on me, but it's people, places, things, and act of God or other. So anyway, to kind of finish up, we're at 15 minutes. There's maybe 10 minutes to go still. So I'm doing pretty good on this one. I'm not really running out of time exactly yet anyway. So I wrote this down just a few minutes before starting the video, just kind of first kind of just from memory, and then I kind of went through my book, kind of thumbing through, trying to kind of reflect on what I had really been working on in the last 2 weeks that I really kind of found noteworthy. First one, initial thought, crashed minutes after last call. If you've been following this, you've probably kind of here's a map that I've drawn here, and this is Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, where the flight took off here, and you've kind of come to know that I kind of think that the witnesses are correct for largely, and that because they seem to see it in places that's that's what I'm leaning to think it happened, and so forth. And there's like a witness that said that she saw it, you know, land or crash on the water. No, she said she saw the plane from the air, um, sitting on the water, and so on. And I kind of don't really have reason to believe that that's a fabricated story. It seems like it's that. But my initial thought, when I was like hearing this on the radio and kind of busy doing other things, they were talking about that they were searching the South China Sea, and to me, this is kind of the South China Sea. So I was kind of like, like 2 or 3, 4 days, 1 or 2 weeks after this happened, I was kind of expecting them to kind of like announce on the news that they found it in the South China Sea, even like the Yellow Sea, up around like Shanghai or something like that. That's what I had in my mind. And then I guess kind of some years went by, and then I kind of came to realize that it still hadn't been found. And I think people kind of like they're kind of talking. This is like the South China Sea. It's kind of kind of a salient boundary, I think, as to where the South China Sea ends and the Sea of Thailand starts. Perhaps the Sea of Thailand is actually part of and in the South China Sea. But anyway, so my kind of initial thought, without really studying this, is I was expecting it to be found up here somewhere. And then when I started to make these videos and so on, my first when I kind of like first read like Wikipedia to kind of like refresh me on this story and kind of learn kind of more details about it, I kind of thought that it probably like crashed just minutes after the last radio contact. If you're not familiar with the story, the plane took off, got up to this place called Igari intersection, and just past that, the pilots basically said, one or the other basically said, good night to the controllers of Kuala Lumpur, and we're supposed to say hello to the people of Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, but they never called in Ho Chi Minh City. And so that the plane just basically disappeared. The radar went off too, or they didn't have radar track anymore. So it kind of like vanished right in this area right here. My initial thought was that it probably crashed right in this area, and so forth. And there's something about oil slicks that that there were like 2 oil slicks that were like found shortly after the plane was discovered that it was missing. And I guess that that somebody by air kind of searched this area to see if they could see any wreckage or anything like that, and they saw 2 different oil slicks that were quite large and seemed to kind of be about the size of like what you'd expect if a 777 crashed on the water there. They hold I don't know how many gallons or something like that, or whatever. It's but it was probably about the same amount that somebody estimated, and so on. Every time I read one of these stories, it's funny how I kind of like start kind of like thinking in terms of, yeah, that's what happened, that's what happened, that's what happened, and then they're telling me that a lady saw the plane on the water here, and it's like, yeah, that's what happened, that's what happened, that's what happened, or it just goes on and on and on. I mean, they say that it kind of flew way down south, and they know that because of the Inmarsat satellite communication system. And you read that, and it's like you kind of think, yeah, that must be what happened. That must be, and so on. And then you kind of like back out of the nitty gritty news. You pull your nose out of the book that that's in, so to speak. The article. Then you kind of like realize, well, it can't be both. It can't be like way down here and here too, kind of thing. So anyway, where'd my little thing go? Now I really have to sum up. I'm running out of time here. I'm going too slow. Oil slicks. There were those two. So it's like convincing, like, this lady said she saw it on the water here, but these people said that there were two oil slicks here. So which one is it? Did it break apart in the, here in the water, or did it sit on the surface where the lady saw it for a while? There. Indonesian pilot recall. There was this Indiana pilot, I know him, an Indiana airline pilot. If you like type that in, MH370 Indiana airline pilot, you'll kind of see this guy. I don't remember his name, but he basically seems to think that the cause of the disaster was that a crack in the back of the aircraft, that all the other 777s were sort of like recalled and got repaired, and Malaysia Airlines kind of decided not to do that. They just kind of thumbed their nose at it, and they were sort of flying these planes when all the other ones were down, and sort of like really racking up the dough for having them in service and so on. And the guy thinks that's the results, that the plane broke apart right there. And he's of the school that he thinks that it happened right in this area, but he thinks that I think that the pilots passed out and the plane continued to fly on for a while way down south, and then broke apart or something like that. Cell phone airplane mode. I don't really have anything on that. There's a little bit on cell phones, that calls were made and no one managed to answer them or something like that. Inmarsat com nav. Yeah, it's kind of almost leaning. I'm almost thinking about trying to move Inmarsat to this section 4 on communications, and because it's not really navigation equipment, but they probably won't. It's going to probably stay in section 3. Mongolia mining. I'm not going to have time to talk about that one another time, I think. U.S. PACs. This was kind of interesting. If you look at kind of the main story, they basically tell you that there was one American adult passenger and there were 2 American child passengers. But if you kind of like do your research on this, the one adult passenger was this Philip Wood, originally of Texas, but he had moved to Beijing with his girlfriend and was in the process of moving to Malaysia with his girlfriend. And then he disappeared on this flight, and the girlfriend has since moved back to Texas to be with her family. But he's like almost an expatriate. I think he's a U.S. born person, but was not living in the U.S. at the time. And there's meanwhile, sort of, there was this Cheng Ming Ling, I think that's his age, 33, moved to Pittsburgh. So there was a guy that disappeared on the flight that was living in Pittsburgh. Left behind like his apartment and his car and that kind of stuff. So he seems like he's kind of an American if he's like living there, probably having to pay taxes, all that kind of stuff. And then there's this Muka Hirji or whatever, and his girlfriend Bay, and I'm not quite sure of her whereabouts. I don't know. She may or may not have been on this flight. I have to kind of like research that, but I know this person was. This person moved to Chicago from Canada, and so and they, I think these two had bought a house in Chicago and were homeowners there. So it seems like um, it kind of an interesting discussion there. Is like, you know, maybe there's more Americans. I mean, what constitutes an American if you're like currently living in America, versus you're born in America but you're not living in America anymore. It's like it seems like the United States government ought to sort of like protect it and be interested in somebody. I mean, if somebody's living in Pittsburgh and they disappear on a flight over in the Middle East or something like that, that they, you know, they my government should be interested in that to try to, you know, figure out what happened so it doesn't happen to, you know, somebody like me in Boston, kind of thing. Finally, Cambodia. I don't think I have anything really on this. New has wing-mounted engines. I don't even know what that was. Oh yeah. There's like a Google Maps satellite image. Somebody kind of saw what they think is the aircraft down on the jungle floor, sort of like looking, you know, sort of intact, kind of in kind of trees and so forth. And I've seen that picture many times, and it does not look like a 777. It looks like maybe a 727 or like a Gulfstream 650 or something like that, like a swept-back T-tail like looking plane. But it looks like, last time I looked at the picture, it looked like somebody had kind of like penciled in a couple of wing-mounted engines on it, or something like that. I didn't remember seeing the engines before, but anyway, it's back to that, what I was saying earlier. It's like you get focused on reading the article about the plane being down in the jungle, and you think, yeah, that must be what happened, you know. And then I don't know. I think you know, it's hard to, when you have like eyewitnesses, kind of a whole bunch of them that all say that they've kind of seen something, you know, and it gives you sort of a mental picture as to what happened. It seems like there's something to that. Anyway, that's going to have to be it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and thumbs up and so forth. Next one will be on section 1 of my book, which is on witnesses. Have a good one. Thank you. Bye. Get this off.